Hello, this is Bill Bullard with RCAF USA. You know, it's pretty clear that the meat packers did not like the Tomi Lahren video in which he said the packers were using imported beef and cattle in order to drive down prices for U.S. cattle producers, forcing them out of business. And the meat packers recruited one of their own, an executive from the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. And let's look at what he said. Number one, he said quite emphatically that the National Cattlemen's Beef Association does not support any sort of mandatory government-run program. Well, that's absolutely false, because the National Cattlemen's Beef Association is one of the biggest benefactors of one of the biggest subsidy programs run by the government. It's called the Beef Checkoff Program, and the NCBA receives about $40 million a year from that program, and according to the Office of Inspector General, about 82% of the NCBA's budget comes directly from that mandatory government program. Now, the NCBA official also said that his organization has been representing producers since 1898. Well, that isn't true either, because prior to 1996, we had a National Cattlemen's Association. But in 1996, the National Cattlemen's Association merged with the Beef Industry Council and became the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. And that's why the National Cattlemen's Beef Association now is required to represent meat packers, and in fact has meat packers seated on its governing board. Now, the NCBA official called Tomi Lahren's news fake news and claimed, for example, that meat imports into this country had no impact on prices. And in fact, he said, it's simply a simple supply and demand situation. Well, that isn't true either, because we woke up in 2014 and realized that our herd size has fallen to the lowest level in 60 years. We never had supplies that tight. And then we had beef demand continue to remain strong. And so cattle prices started to rally. And we knew that because our supplies were so tight in the long biological cycle of cattle, we would have at least 3 years of strong prices. But something had happened in 2015 and it went terribly wrong. Cattle prices fell further and faster than at any time in history, absolutely contrary to the economic law of supply and demand. And we know what happened during that time. It was when imports of live cattle and beef increased by about 15%. Now, the NCBA official also said that our trade with Canada and Mexico is extremely important. And if they were upset over our country of origin labeling law, we'd be leaving $1 billion worth of beef on the table. Well, let's look at the facts. If we look at 2015, for example, we imported $4.5 billion worth of beef from Canada and Mexico. We only exported to them about $2 billion. So we are already leaving $2 billion on the table to depress our prices. Now let's think about this. If you and I sat at the table and every time you gave me $4.50 and I gave you $2 back, you play that game until I quit. Well, fortunately, President Trump has said he needs to renegotiate NAFTA because it's a stupid agreement, and we agree. And clearly, Canada and Mexico is not going to retaliate against the United States and risk the #1 market that they have for their beef product, and one that they actually win in because we continue to absorb a huge deficit in trade with that country. The other thing that the NCBA official said was that Dr. Taylor Haynes was incorrect to say that the World Trade Organization was unconstitutional. In fact, the NCBA official said that nothing in the Constitution even mentions that. And that's the point. Our Constitution talks about our 3 branches of government: the administrative branch, the legislative branch, and judicial branch. It doesn't talk about a supreme authority in Geneva that is able to dictate to the United States what laws we can and cannot have. As a cattle industry representative, I'm very thankful that Tomi Lahren stood up on behalf of independent cattle producers and consumers, and she realizes that consumers want to know the origins of their beef. And while we're importing beef from 20 different countries with very questionable safety records, consumers absolutely deserve to know the origins of their beef. So please help us convince President Trump that it is time to reinstate country of origin labeling for beef and pork. Thank you and have a great day.